Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has been on a downward slide for some time now, and it's really starting to show in their population. Why has this once great city been hemorrhaging population for almost 75 years? Well, that's what we're looking at today. The last time the Steel City had positive growth at a census was 1950, when they peaked at 604,000 residents. In 2021, they officially cut their population in half and now sit around 302,000. The entire metro area has about 2.3 million residents. At one point, they were closer to 2.6 million. Like most Rust Belt cities, Pittsburgh has seen better times. To be fair, compared to other big cities in this region, Pittsburgh has done a pretty good job keeping it together, but they're still far worse off than they once were. Today, we're looking at the reasons Pittsburgh residents give for leaving the city. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, job losses in the steel industry. Pittsburgh was once a major center for steel production. That's how they got the name the Steel City. But the industry has declined in recent decades, resulting in job losses and decreased economic activity. And people have left the city looking for better job opportunities. The average salary in Pittsburgh in 2022 was $61,000 a year. To live there comfortably, a combined income of $78,000 is needed. Now, they have other industries that kind of held on. The steel industry's for the most part gone in Pittsburgh when you compare it to what it once was. Healthcare and education are the major employers in Pittsburgh, with few opportunities in other fields. They've put a lot of effort into growing their tech sector, and it's shown results, kind of mixed results, I'd say. Hasn't really blown up like other places. They do have jobs, they just don't have a lot of jobs people can really afford to take. I found this one weird because if you look at it from a statistics standpoint, I thought this would have been number 1. But according to the responses, here it is at number 10. Number 9, losing the youth. That's right, young adults are not staying around Pittsburgh. It's too Pittsburghish. The out-of-state migration for young people has been pretty bad in Pittsburgh. Many young adults have left Pittsburgh in search of better job opportunities and a more vibrant urban environment. Pittsburgh's population has been aging, with fewer people staying in the city to start their careers and families. Between 2010 and 2018, Pittsburgh lost 9% of its population of 20 to 34-year-olds, which was the largest decline of that demographic of any major U.S. city during that same time. It's created kind of a brain drain, so to speak. Pittsburgh's top talents in emerging newer industries like tech are putting Pittsburgh in the rearview mirror. This, of course, can lead to decreased economic activity and a less vibrant cultural scene. Number 8, the high taxes. Pittsburgh has some of the highest local taxes in the country, which can make it less attractive to businesses and individuals. This can lead to fewer job opportunities and a stale economy. But yeah, they definitely have one of the highest local tax burdens in the country, with effective tax rate of 3.98 in 2021. That's according to the Tax Foundation. I get it, taxes are needed to get improvements to the city and take care of public services and all that. It's a balancing act. They got to figure out where that sweet spot is. Are we charging too much in taxes that it's driving businesses and people out of the city? Or do we lower it so low that those people and those companies come back to the city, but now our police, fire, and roads are underfunded, schools are underfunded, all that good stuff. It's a balancing act. But in my opinion, when you're almost leading the pack on the high side, it's time to figure out other ways to get some money. Number 6, the schools. I'm not sure why this one popped up as a negative and why so many people put it down. Their schools are graded a C+ by Area Vibes. Sure, that's not an A or B, but that ain't bad. The only negative I could find was that their school enrollment has been down across the board, little by little over the last decade. This can be a sign to families that are looking to start a family or raise their kids in a place that if school enrollment is declining, that means there's less kids, there could be cutbacks. So in the future, their schools could be running into some problems, but right now they're graded a C+. I don't have kids in the Pittsburgh public school system. I'm just going on stats on this one and things I could read, and I can't find anything wrong. If you know why people seem to think the schools suck in Pittsburgh, let me know. I'm sure they've got those one-off schools that are just horrible. Every city, every school district, every state has a few of those, but overall, they get a C+. Number 6, lack of diversity. Pittsburgh has historically been a predominantly white city, which can make it less attractive to people of color. This can lead to a less diverse and inclusive community. Now, when you're trying to draw people in, this creates a big problem because sometimes you're trying to draw people in from other countries to work different jobs, things like that. If they don't see anything related to their culture, they might pick another city. Now, in the comment section, we're going to have a few people right now that are all, well, that's a good thing. Sign me up. White city, I want to go there. If you're going to leave a racist statement, at least finish off that statement with, I'm not very educated. So we all know. But lack of diversity does create some problems, especially when you're trying to draw in people to your community to help it grow. And Pittsburgh is definitely one of the whitest cities we have. Number 5, their infrastructure sucks. Now, there's a couple different things for this one. Many of Pittsburgh's buildings and a lot of their infrastructure is old and it needs to be repaired. Now, this can make it less attractive for businesses, and also residents don't want to move downtown if the buildings all suck. Now, not all of them do suck, but they have quite a few that definitely need some work. This kind of hurts vacancies and real estate, and also can lead to a decrease in economic activity. Then you have the other part of infrastructure, which is limited public transportation. Pittsburgh's public transportation system is limited compared to many other cities, which can make it more difficult for people to get around. This can also lead, again, to a decrease in economic activity. That is normally one of the first things these days that a city really has to put effort into to attract new people. Not everyone wants to own a car these days. It's become too expensive for a lot of people, and they're choosing public transportation over owning a car, especially now that you have Uber and everything else. In case you don't have time to take the train, you just call Uber. But most people can't afford to take Uber and Lyft everywhere they go. Gotta have some public transportation. What I've noticed last 5-6 years, that most of the cities that have a really good public transportation system are the cities that are growing. Number 4, high crime rate. Pittsburgh has higher crime rates than many other cities in the U.S., which can make it less attractive to families and businesses. Now, in the last couple of years, it's gotten a little better, but it's still a little high. I always, tell people they're not as bad as a lot of the other cities. Total crime rate in like Detroit is like 400% above the national average. Pittsburgh's not that bad, 53% above the national average. Violent crime rate is only 49% above the national average, but they still have some crime, and a lot of people put it down on something they didn't want to deal with anymore. So they beat feet out of Pittsburgh. Probably like 3 years ago, I did a video about Pittsburgh and talked about the crime rate. There was a great story that was in the news back then. I got to share it with you. This woman and this man lived together. They weren't an item or anything like that, and I think he was a little bit older. Say he was like 60 and she was probably 35 or something like that. Well, he got a little frisky one day and started getting a little grabby, and she turned around and hit him with a hammer that was on the counter. And then she called the police. The police come out, they take a statement from her, and he's just slurring his words, and he's obviously intoxicated. So they take him to jail, and they're gonna let him sober up and work it all out. Well, next day he hasn't sobered up. They're like, what's the matter with this guy? They wait a little bit longer to sober him up, finally check back on him, and his head is now swollen. She beat the crap out of him with the hammer. She didn't just hit him once. He was severely concussed and confused. They finally had to take him to the hospital. Number 3, the health of the citizens. There's a couple factors that play into this for Pittsburgh. First of all, they have some of the worst air quality in the nation. And this is a historic thing for them. Pittsburgh has historically had issues with air pollution. This can obviously cut down on your quality of life, really work on you if you have asthma or COPD, things like that. Something else in the health realm that people complain about when they're talking about Pittsburgh is the lack of healthy food options, meaning they don't have a lot of vegan restaurants, which not my thing, but some people do see that as an important thing when they're moving to a new city. It's not just vegan, it's just healthy overall. And this, of course, leads to it being less attractive to people that are looking for a healthier lifestyle. They also have limited green spaces in Pittsburgh. Now, on the outskirts, you got all kinds of cool things to do, but in the town, they have fewer parks and green spaces than most major cities. There was a time back in the 80s and maybe even the 90s where parks really were kind of becoming this old thing that people really didn't do anymore. But somewhere around 2000, 2010, people started going to the park again. People started seeing the value in parks. Pittsburgh hasn't jumped back on that park train yet. Number 2, high housing costs. Pittsburgh's housing costs have been rising in recent years, even though people are leaving the city. And that's one of the biggest things people are doing. They're leaving Pittsburgh for more affordable areas. Now, if you're coming from someplace like New York, California, or even here in Oregon, you probably look at Pittsburgh and go, that's pretty cheap. But if you're coming from Ohio and other parts of Pennsylvania, it's a little expensive, especially with the jobs and the economic situation the city's in. Yeah, it can be really expensive. The median home value in Pittsburgh, that's median, not average, is $146,000. That's end of 2021 numbers. In the end of 2022, it only dropped down to $146,000. So they lost $500 off their median, which isn't a lot. It's hard to nail down a real average for a city this size, but I can tell you can get decent homes between $200,000 and $400,000. Obviously, it's a big city with a lot of different neighborhoods. Prices will vary. They got $1 million homes, multi-million dollar homes, just like every place else. They also have rundown shacks that go for about $120,000. If you're looking for a fixer-upper, Pittsburgh may be your place. But people complain that the prices are too high in Pittsburgh, which I don't get. They even complain about the cost of living. Cost of living is not bad. It's actually 7% lower than the national average. Housing's considered to be 35% lower than the national average. But people still complain, said it's getting too expensive. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to Pittsburgh or any place in the country, there's a link for Home and Money. If you're thinking about buying a house in a new town, they've got a lot of tools for you to help you with that journey, including getting a hold of a real estate agent for whatever market you're moving into. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, it's boring and cold. This one showed up a lot, especially when you're talking about the youth. They don't want to hang out a place that's boring. The cold, that's a different story. Most people don't like the cold. Pittsburgh's winters can be cold and snowy, which makes it less attractive to people from warmer climates. This can lead to a decrease in population as people move to warmer areas. People that like doing things outdoors usually like doing those things outdoors in decent weather. Sure, you have skiing and snowmobiling and snowshoeing, but most of the things that people are going to do outdoor are going to be done spring, summer, and fall. Winters in the Pittsburgh area can be pretty rough and kind of limit the things you could do. On top of that, there's complaints that they have limited nightlife and cultural amenities. This was a big complaint for a lot of people that moved out of Pittsburgh. They said the nightlife sucked and the different things, art galleries, things like that, were limited. Boring is usually associated with places like Nebraska and Iowa. Pretty bad when a major city is called boring. Sure, if your thing is dive bars and cheap beer, then yeah, Pittsburgh's got plenty of that for you. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.